ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम अज्ञानातिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी ऋषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते जयपताक स्वामिने नाम्ने नम आचार्य पदाय निताय कृपा प्रदाय गौरकथा नाम दान नाम। Okay. Uh, Hare Krishna, everybody. Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to our weekly Bhagavatam class. Firstly, I'm extremely grateful for this wonderful opportunity to serve all of you on this very auspicious Kartik Mass, like Prabhuji was mentioning. And we are actually coming to the end of Kartik Mass, right? So, as we all know, and we've heard repeatedly over the years and over the past month as well, we would have heard this fact over and over again that Kartik Maas, Damodar Maas, is one of the most important and the topmost month when it comes to getting spiritual mercy, spiritual benefit, making advancement, right? Our Shastras, they repeatedly declare Kartika Khaluvai Masam Sarva Maseshu Cha Uttamam Punyananam Paramam Punyam Pavananam Cha Pavanam, right? That amongst all the months, Kartik month is one of the topmost month. Actually, in this month, any spiritual activity that we do, the smallest of the smallest acts, they have unimaginable glories, unimaginable benefits of those acts. For performing those acts are mentioned in the Shastras. Just simple acts like sleeping, eating, waking up and taking bath, honoring prasadam, very, very simple aspects, showing ghee lamp. All of these are not just in one scripture, across Shastras, they're all very elaborately the glories one gets by performing these simple spiritual activities are explained, right? Tomorrow we know that we have kitchen cleaning seva, right? So in the Vaishnava Khanda of the Skanda Puran, Brahma tells Narada Muni, Vishnu Devalayam pratah sammarjayati kartike tasya vaikunta bhavanam jayate sudridam graham, which means Vishnu Devalayam Pratah Sammarjayati Kartike. Marjana means to clean. And any person who cleans a Vishnu temple in the month of Kartik, for them something very special is given. Now we all know that this material world is a temporary place, right? We keep hearing, and it's a fact that everybody, even the atheists, acknowledge that everything is temporary in this material world. But even in the temporary world, the prices of real estate, the prices of land is extremely high, right? And it's in a lot of demand. And many of us as well, there have been some of the other time when we wanted to have a piece of land in this temporary world, for the temporary body, but we've struggled so hard for it, right? Because it means so much for us. But imagine a person who cleans a Vishnu temple in the month of Kartik, the benefit that they get is Tasya Vaikunta Bhavanam. They don't just get a 30-40 house or a 2,400 square feet plot in Vaikunta, but they get a huge palace in Vaikunta for residence. And Jayate Sudridam Graham. And this is, Skanda Puran, Brahma is saying this is for sure. It is guaranteed that anybody who renders service in a Vishnu temple of cleaning specifically, for them, a special huge palace residence is made in Vaikunta, right? So this must be very, very appealing and endearing for all of us, right? So in this manner, Any activity, any spiritual activity, knowingly, unknowingly, that we perform in the month of Kartik is very, very glorious. What to speak of discussing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating with Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam? That is supremely glorious any time of the month, any time of the year, right? Any time of our life as well. Now, why is it so beneficial? Is there was a study that was conducted to understand what are some of the biggest fears of human beings, right? And out of them, they made a survey, they asked people, and they listed down all the various fears that people have. The highest, obviously, was death, fear of death. Then, second was the fear of public speaking. Then, third was the fear of exams. So, in this way, all the fears were listed, and the researchers, they wanted to understand how come in all of these things there are a class of people who are confident of facing these challenges, whereas there is another large group of people who fear this so much. They fear it more than their life. Right? They're very scared and they're very nervous about it. What makes these two groups different? They wanted to study and understand that. And after a lot of study and consideration, they realized that there's something very specific that is happening here. Whenever we face challenges, whenever we face our fears, in our body there's a gush of blood, right? We call it adrenaline rush. Now when this adrenaline rush happens, whether that adrenaline leads to excitement or nervousness depends on the state of mind, depends on what thoughts we have. So if we have negative thoughts, that adrenaline converts into nervousness. And if you have positive thoughts, it converts into excitement, right? For example, if I'm thinking, oh, if I get on the stage, or if I come into the limelight, I will speak something wrong, or I might forget something and I might look like a total fool in front of everybody. So if we are running all these scenarios in our head, and then we actually go and stand in front of the stage, all that adrenaline gets converted into a nervous energy, and we actually start getting even more nervous. At the same time, if we feel that, hey, I'm going to go on the stage, or I'm going to go into this exam, and I will give my best, everything I've learned or everything I'm prepared, I'm going to deliver it to the best of my ability. So in this way, if you're in the positive frame of mind, the same adrenaline gets converted into excitement, right? Anticipation, enthusiasm, all of these positive attributes. Now, fear of death, we know, is a biggest and common fear of everybody across the entire material world, not just the earthly planet, right? In that very, very painful state of suffering, to remain in a positive frame of mind is extremely difficult. It cannot happen automatically, right? And throughout our life, we are hearing about how painful and how miserable death is. So with all of these negativity, it's very difficult to be in a positive frame of the mind where we actually think about Krishna in the moment of death, right? Bhagavatam says the goal of human form of life is ante narayana smriti. That is the highest benefit of human form of life. But to actually do that in the moment of death requires a lifelong preparation, where throughout our life we are preparing our thought process. We are running scenarios in our head where we actually remember Krishna in the moment of death. And to do that, one of the most important instruments for us to remain in that positive frame of mind, to think of Krishna, to remember Krishna all throughout our life, across both the positive and the negative highs and lows of life, one of the very important mediums is Srimad Bhagavatam. Because Srimad Bhagavatam has these beautiful narrations, beautiful pastimes of Krishna. It explains the qualities of the Lord, his reciprocations with his devotees, which give us so many avenues for remembering Krishna at all times, right? And beautiful lessons as well, like we'll see even today. So that is why hearing Srimad Bhagavatam any day of our life, right, is supremely glorious. But in the Kartik month, as we discussed, it becomes even more, million times more glorious to perform this very simple activity of associating with the Lord, right? So, with in that mood, we'll begin our discussion of today's chapter. We'll be studying from fourth canto, eighth chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam today, right? So to recap, first seven chapters of fourth canto was about the pastime of Mother Sati, Daksha, and Lord Shiva. right? So we saw that entire pastime, which is very practical, and we all derive a lot of lessons for our both material and spiritual lives as well from this pastime. And this pastime in the seventh chapter, it ends with Daksha having a transformation of heart. And he goes and he worships Lord Vishnu, and then he worships Lord Shiva and seeks forgiveness and has genuine repentance. He realizes that he had false sense of pride, and he repents for it. And Lord Shiva forgives him and blesses everybody else as well who had offended. And then we know Mother Sati, she had given up her body by entering into a yogic fire, but she takes birth again as the son, as the daughter of Himalaya and Himalaya's wife Menaka. She comes by the name Mother Parvati. And Sati, in the body of Mother Parvati, she again becomes the consort of Lord Shiva because of her single pointed devotion and desire to serve Lord Shiva. She again becomes the consort. Right. And then that chapter ends with the Falashruti that anybody who hears this narration, this entire pastime, they become free from all kinds of sinful reactions. Right. So after that, after the seventh chapter, from eighth chapter to 12th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, we enter another very special episode of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the where Maitreya Muni explains the pastime, the entire life of Dhruva Maharaj to Vidura. Right now, this pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, it's definitely one of the more popular pastimes that at least everybody in Krishna consciousness in ISKCON movement we would have heard many times, right? Apart from Prahlad Maharaj's pastime as well. And that is because it is one of the most wonderful pastimes of fourth canto, and not just fourth canto, the entire Srimad Bhagavatam as well, right? Because it is very encouraging and hope giving pastime for a sadhaka, that a small 5 year old, small children are always anyway agitated, but here is a small 5 year old extremely agitated, heated up boy who goes out into the forest, right? And under the guidance of spiritual master and his mother, he starts performing bhakti. And within a very short span of time, he actually has direct audience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He actually sees the Lord face to face, right? So this shows that bhakti can be performed by anybody under any circumstances, and it can be performed successfully as well, right? Of course, we'll see the extent of determination that Dhruva Maharaj had, right, which we oftentimes lack, and we'll see how we can learn from it as well. But yeah, this is definitely one of the hope-giving pastimes of how success can be achieved in bhakti and what success in bhakti actually looks like, right? So we can learn from this pastime. And as we all know, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he loved this pastime. This along with Prahlad Maharaj pastime were two of his favorite pastimes from the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Most part of his life he spent in Jagannath Puri, at least the last 18 years of his life. And in that time, Mahaprabhu would stay in Gambira, and Gadadhar Pandit would come to Gambira to narrate these pastimes to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu, again and again and again, he would request Gadadhar Pandit to narrate the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj because he was so fond of it. So it was so dear to the Lord, right? And not just Mahaprabhu, to all the Vaishnavas, this pastime is very, very dear and very endearing. So, like I mentioned, I'm sure we have heard the storyline and we've heard this pastime many times before. But my humble request to everybody, and even the thought process of me as well, is that let's have this open heart. Let's approach this pastime, this narration, this discussion with an open heart, because if we are willing to accept the mercy, then Srimad Bhagavatam is always ready to reveal its mercy in different ways. So maybe we'll hear the same points that we have heard all this while, in all our previous narrations of this pastime, but maybe there'll be some point that will hit us, or some realization that will come upon us by the mercy of Guru Krishna and Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna in the form of Bhagavatam, right? So with that mood, we will enter into this pastime in the eighth chapter. The eighth chapter is titled Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest, right? Now, this is one of the big, I wouldn't say the biggest, but one of the bigger chapters of the fourth canto in Srimad Bhagavatam, because it has 82 shlokas, 82 verses. And how it is structured, how the chapter flows is, the first five verses, they talk about Maitreya Muni describes the lineage of Adharma to Vidura, the son of Brahma, one of the sons called Adharma. Then from sixth verse to the 16th verse, we see that that very significant episode of Suruchi chastising, insulting, humiliating our little Dhruva. Right. Then from 17th shloka to the 23rd shloka, we see the maturity of Suniti and how she consoles, guides, Dhruva Maharaj in a very mature manner. And then from 24 to 34, in these verses, we see how Narada Muni tests Dhruva Maharaj, and he actually tests the determination and the will and motivation of Dhruva Maharaj. And then from 35 to 62, this is the biggest portion of this chapter. In these verses, Narada Muni instructs Dhruva Maharaj on how to perform his bhakti so that all his desires can be fulfilled. Then finally, from 63rd to 70th, Narada Muni, after giving this guidance to Dhruva Maharaj, he goes to his father Uttanapad and he tries to have a conversation with him and console Uttanapad as well. And the last 12 verses from 71 to 82, it talks about Dhruva Maharaj's austerities and the effect that Dhruva Maharaj's austerities had on the entire universe, right? So this is how this chapter flows, and this chapter ends with Dhruva Maharaj performing intense tapasya, right? And the next chapter talks about what was the benefit of that tapasya and rest of Dhruva Maharaj's life till the 12th chapter, where Dhruva Maharaj actually goes back home, back to Godhead, right? Now, we'll go into the details of this chapter right now. So as we discussed, the first five verses, Maitreya Muni describes the lineage of Adharma. So, Maitreya Muni, as we know, is explaining the lineage of Swayambhu Manu, all the children of Swayambhu Manu. So, he spoke about the three daughters of Swayambhu Manu, Devahuti, Akuti, Prasuti. Till the seventh chapter, all the daughters and lineage of these three, daughters were completed. Now, there are two sons of Swayambhu Manu, Priyavrata and Uttanapad. But before going to the sons of Swayambhu Manu, Maitreya Muni has also been touching upon the sons of Brahma, who is the father of Swayambhu Manu, right? So, Brahma had a few sons like Narada Muni and the Chaturkumaras who became Naishtika Brahmacharis. So, there was no lineage of these children to explain as such, right? And there were few other sons of Brahma, like Kardama Muni, who actually got married with one of the daughters of Swayambhu Manu. So in the description of the lineage of daughters of Swayambhu Manu, some of these sons got covered automatically as well, right? But there was one son of Brahma that Maitreya Muni did not touch upon, and this son was Adharma, right? So now here he talks about very briefly in just four verses, he covers the entire lineage of Adharma. So Maitreya Muni explains that from Brahma came his son Adharma, which means irreligion. And Adharma married his sister Mrisha, which means falsity. So from irreligion and falsity, they had two children, Damba and Maya. Damba means illusion, and Maya means Damba means bluffing, and Maya means cheating or illusion, right? So these two brothers and sisters again married each other, and they had two children, Loba and Nikriti. Loba is greed, and Nikriti means cunningness. And from these two brothers and sisters came Krodha and Himsa. Krodha is anger, and Himsa is violence or envy. And from these two brothers and sisters came two children, Kali and Durukti. Kali is quarrel, and Durukti means very harsh speech. Right? So again, from these two brothers and sisters came Mrityu and Bhiti. Mrityu is death, and Bhiti is fear. And from them came Yatana and Niraya. Yatana is excessive pain, and Niraya is hell. Right? So this is the lineage of Adharma that Maitreya Muni explains. Now, this whole lineage is a combination of illicit combination of brothers and sisters getting married to each other, resulting in all the negative sort of attributes and qualities, right? Personalities who portray or personify these negative attributes. And Here, if you see this lineage, it starts with adharma or irreligion, and it ends with niraya or hell. So Maitramuni is indicating that those who take shelter of irreligion, they eventually end up in hell through the course of all of this cycle, right? So in the fifth verse, Maitreya Muni explains the falashruti of hearing the narration of this lineage, this dynasty, is that one receives piety, one receives punya, and the second benefit is their heart becomes purified, their heart becomes cleansed. Now we can imagine this is a narration of all the horrible things that we can imagine. It's a very unpleasant lineage. But how come this narration can have such a good benefit, good impact on all of us? And that is because anybody who hears this narration, they feel repulsed, they feel a sense of hatred towards this all of these personalities, and their determination not to take shelter of these personalities increases. And because of that desire and because of that willingness, heart becomes cleansed and purified, right? So after Maitri, he out of duty, he had to explain the lineage of all the children of Brahma. So he explained the lineage of Adharma as well. But very quickly, he wanted to explain something very pious, very glorious. So then he started talking about the life of Dhruva Maharaj, who was the son of Uttanapad. And Uttanapad was the son of Swayambhu Manu, right? So in the eighth verse, uh, it is mentioned that Uttanapad had two wives. The elder wife was Suniti. Su means good, and Niti means behavior, or her conduct. So Suniti was not externally not very beautiful, but her heart was very good, and she was very very chaste, very well mannered, right? But she was not favored by Uttanapad because he was extremely attached to his second wife, his younger wife, Suruchi. Ruchi means interest, and Suruchi means too much interest, right? So here Uttanapad was excessively attached to his younger wife. So from Suniti, Dhruva Maharaj, Uttanapad had a son by the name Dhruva Maharaj, and from Suruchi, he had a son by the name Uttama, right? So Dhruva and Uttama were brothers, step brothers. So Bhagavatam explains one day Uttanapad was sitting on his throne, and Uttama was seated on his lap, and Suruchi was sitting by the side of Uttanapad. Right there, seeing this, Dhruva Maharaj walks into the palace and he looks at this, thing, and he actually expresses desire to Uttanapad that, Father, I also want to sit on your lap, like brother. So with this very innocent, childish desire, natural desire, he starts walking towards the throne where his father was seated. But to his surprise, Uttanapad was not welcoming of Dhruva. He does not, with love and affection, like how he was showing on Uttama, he does not pick up Dhruva Maharaj just like that. Because Surichi was standing next to him, right? So out of attachment for Surichi, he did not welcome Dhruva Maharaj. Now, a king's duty is to treat all the citizens equally, forget about his own family members, but he's not able to treat his own wives equally, and his own children as well, small innocent children also, he's not able to treat them in an equal manner because of his excessive attachment to his younger wife, Suruchi, right? Uh, Now, taking advantage of how the king Uttanapad is helplessly attached to Suruchi, hearing the desire of Dhruva Maharaj, she starts, speaking out of envy and hatred to Dhruva Maharaj. She tells him that, Dhruva, you're a small boy, so maybe you don't understand this, but maybe you're making the mistake of assuming that your mother and me are the same. But that is not true. We both might be queens, but we are poles apart. You cannot sit on your father's lap because although you are the son of Uttanapad, but you are not my son. You have not taken birth from my womb, right? So if you're really desiring to sit on your father's lap, like your brother Uttama, then you being the son of Uttanapad is not a sufficient qualification. What you must do is you must go and worship the supreme personality of Godhead, Vishnu, right? And worship him. Why? So that by perfecting your worship, your devotion towards Lord Vishnu, you get another birth where you come as my son. You come as a son from my womb, and then you get the eligibility and qualification to sit on the throne on the lap of your father. Right. So indirectly, out of envy, she was actually telling Dhruva Maharaj that you die rather than staying in this body which you got from your mother. You give up your body, and maybe if you're fortunate enough, you'll get another body from me. Right. That was the arrogance and the envy and hatred that Suruchi had, especially towards Suniti, which was being shown upon Dhruva Maharaj, young Dhruva. Right. Now, she was not a devotee of the Lord, but she was recommending worshipping Vishnu just to impress Uttanapad as well. That, see, I'm giving positive guidance, good guidance to your son. I'm asking him to go worship the Lord, right? To console him, she was saying that. But we can understand the extent of her arrogance, right? Because we know that worship of Lord Vishnu, the highest benefit is deliverance from this samsara chakra, deliverance from the cycle of birth and death. But Suruchi is saying the highest benefit that Dhruva can get by worshipping Lord Vishnu is to take birth from her womb. So one is she is excessively glorifying herself, that to take birth from my womb, you need to do tapasya, you need to do devotion, you need to perfect your life, all of that, right? And on the other hand, she's undermining the perfection of devotees of the Lord, right? So in this way, out of envy, hatred, arrogance, illusion, Suruchi, she vents out all her anger on Dhruva. And all of this was still okay to Dhruva Maharaj. He was hurt. He was definitely hurt. He didn't expect this sort of behavior. No child can tolerate it. But he looked very hopefully into the eyes of his father, Uttanapad, thinking there might be some shelter, some defense. Uttanapad will stop this injustice and say, no, no, Dhruva is also my son. Something he'll say. But when he looked into the eyes of his father was looking down. He did not even meet the eyes of his son. Then Dhruva realized, my father is going to let this insult happen, and in front of everybody in the palace as well. And Dhruva Maharaj was shattered. He was so disgusted, and his heart was filled with so much anger and so much envy. Bhagavatam describes he ran away from that place crying like a hissing snake. Snake is anyway restless and always very restless, but now if that snake is beaten with a stick, that snake becomes even more restless. And that is how Dhruva Maharaj was. He was hissing heavily, he was breathing heavily, and he ran from that place filled with tears, right? Now if we pause here and reflect what has happened, for most of us, uh, all of us actually, childhood is a very delicate stage of life, because many of the psychological problems, psychological mannerisms, behaviors that we see in adults can be linked back to their childhood experiences. Some of the childhood memories or childhood trauma that they underwent, that shapes how they are psychologically once they become adults as well, right? So it's extremely important for adults to be, reasonably well behaved in front of children, because it has a very long lasting impact for the rest of their lives, right? Here we see both Uttanapad and Suruchi, they failed in this regard. Uttanapad had excessive attachment and lust on a bodily platform to his younger wife, Suruchi, right? And this lust, it is mentioned, it is like a fire which is dousing is very restless, right? It's moving very rapidly, which is because it is about to get doused, it's about to go away. But at that time, just to stabilize the fire, if we add more fuel, initially the fire will become stable, but after a while that fire will become even more than before because of the fuel, right? Lust is like that. So if we try to fuel the lust by satisfying it, then it becomes more and more. Instead of reducing, that lust increases as we go on with our life, right? So it's a very very dangerous anartha that we need to uproot as early as possible in the initial stages itself, no matter how painful it is, by taking shelter of the Supreme Lord and his devotees, right? The other anartha we see was portrayed by Suruchi, and this was the anartha of envy, right? Now, her problem was not with Dhruva Maharaj sitting on the throne neck on the other lap of her husband, right? Her problem was if Dhruva Maharaj sat next to her son Uttama on the lap of Uttanapad on the throne, then it is indirectly indicating that she is equal to Suniti. And she did not want to be equal to Suniti. She always wanted to be superior to Suniti. And she knew she was the one who was more favored, a million times more favored by the king as well. So she didn't want to lose her status, lose her position, lose her, affinity to the king as well. And out of that envy towards Suniti, she did all of this. She said these harsh words. Right now, there is this very interesting nyai in the Nyaya Shastra. This comes, which is called Vadu Masha Mapana Nyai. Right? Vadu means daughter-in-law, Masha means beans, and Mapana means to measure. Right? So what this Nyai means is that there was once a Brahmana who took a vow that every Dwadashi he will give one handful of beans to anybody who comes to his doorstep begging alms. Any Brahmana who comes, he'll give one fistful, one arm handful of beans to him. So initially, he started this vrata every Dwadashi. After a while, all the beggars, they formed an association and they got to know that, hey, this, very charitable Brahmana, he's giving beans free to all the beggars. So all the Brahmanas. So let's go. So all the Brahmanas and the beggars and everybody else, anybody who wanted beans, they all started forming a queue and they started going to this Brahmana, right? On every Dwadashi day. Now, after a while, when it became popular and more people started coming, the Brahmana, he felt that, I'm running out of beans. I'm having to procure more and more groceries, and it's becoming too much of a burden for me. So he wanted to see how he can reduce or how he can demotivate people from coming and asking for charity. So he thought, okay, one way to save beans and ensure more people get it is I have a daughter-in-law who, a young girl who recently married and came into our house as my daughter-in-law. Her hands are very small, right? So I will make her give the charity because her hands are small. So lesser beans will go into her hand, and every handful that she gives, so it's lesser beans, and we can give to more people. We can save some money with that, right? So that was his logic. So with that, he next Dwadashi requested his daughter-in-law to come and give the beans. And the Brahmanas and everybody else, they started forming line and they started taking. But then they saw that this daughter-in-law, she was very beautiful. They saw this beautiful girl, she is giving charity. And then the word spread. Then forget about the beggars. Even the wealthy men, they also started standing in a queue. And all the nearby villages, towns, all of them came saying, oh, wow, a beautiful girl, she's giving beans. So let's go and, see her at least for a while. Right. So this is Vadu Masha Mapanyanyai, where you try to do something, you try to put endeavor or effort to save something, but eventually you end up losing more than before, right? So this was the case with Suruchi as well. She was thinking by doing all of this, I'll try to save my position as the favored one of Uttanapad, but by performing this, by doing this, by disgracing Dhruva, she actually loses everything, and we'll see that as we go along in the past time as well, right? So this anartha of envy is very, very dangerous, right? Bhagavatam also gives the analogy of crow and a dolphin, that when a group of crows, they are flying and one crow falls down, the rest of the crows, out of envy, they also come down, but not to help this crow, but they keep biting and pecking into the crows so that it becomes even more hurt and it is unable to fly, and then the rest of them fly away, right? On the other hand, we have dolphins. Whenever one of the dolphins is sinking lower and lower into the water instead of staying on the surface, uh, rest of the dolphins, they go down and they support this dolphin from below, so that this dolphin gathers enough courage, enough strength, and then it starts jumping up in the air above the water as well, right? So in this way, we see even in the nature, even amongst different species, some of these attributes of envy is explained, right? NV, it actually stands for no vacancy in Vaikunta. If we have this anartha, we cannot go into Vaikunta, because this anartha of envy is the root anartha because of which all the anarthas have come for all of us. Because we were all in Vaikunta, in the spiritual planet, in Goloka Vrindavan. in direct association, direct service of the Lord. But then we had this envious nature that why only Lord should enjoy. I also want to enjoy independently of the Lord. And because of this anartha, we all came into this material world and all the other anarthas followed, right? This is the root anartha. And if we don't address this, then there's no way we can go back into the spiritual world, right? In the Damodar Leela, we see that there's this episode where Mother Yashoda is feeding her breast milk to little Kanha, and on the stove there was this Padmakanda milk which boils over and it spills over, right? And to save that, Mother Yashoda puts Krishna on the lap and she runs. Now, Acharya has explained one of the understanding of why that milk boiled over was it is mentioned that the milk thought that you know uh, if Krishna is relishing the nectarian breast milk of Mother Yashoda filled with love, motherly love, he will never even look at me. So my life is a waste. The purpose of my life as a milk is to be accepted by Krishna. If that is not happening, why live? So the milk thought in this way and it jumped out of the bowl into the fire and it committed suicide. Right? This is what our Vaishnava acharyas they give as commentaries, right? Hari Shauri and other acharyas in their Bhakti Rasamalayam. Now, one other understanding that is mentioned of this episode is the milk, Padmaganda milk in the stove, on the stove, and Mother Yashoda's breast milk, they're both milk, right? So they are like God brothers. And whenever one God brother does better or gets more favor and mercy of the Lord than the other God brother or God sister, there is envy. And when envy boils up, then we end up committing suicide, spiritual suicide, right? Which is what the milk did. The milk became envious that, oh, Krishna is neglecting me. And it became so envious that it boiled over and it committed suicide. And because it committed suicide, it lost its opportunity to serve the Lord. Because if Padmaganda milk was still there on the stove, now Krishna is drinking Mother Yashoda's milk. But in the afternoon, maybe in the evening, he would have consumed that milk as well, the Padmaganda milk as well, right? Some sweet, some curd, some butter, yogurt, something he would have consumed from that milk. But that milk lost its opportunity to be consumed by Krishna, to render service to Krishna, because it, out of envy, it committed spiritual suicide. And this can happen to any of us, right? When we see others growing, progressing in bhakti, being glorified, receiving special favor and mercy of the Lord, if we are also bubbling up with envy, then we commit aparad and we lose our opportunity. Whatever opportunity we have to serve the Lord, we end up losing that as well, right? So it's a very dangerous anartha that we should avoid. So moving ahead in our chapter, eighth chapter, Dhruva is extremely disappointed, extremely, taken aback and crying, hurt, filled with hatred and envy towards, everybody. Dhruva starts running to his mother because his father was not giving support. So he runs to his mother, Suniti. He goes to her palace. And while he was running to her palace, before he reaches there, the inhabitants of the palace, they go to Mother Suniti and they explain to her what happened, what her son Dhruva went through. Now, Mother Suniti was devastated. She was heartbroken because already she was having the pain of being neglected by her husband, right? And not being treated well by her co wife. So, on top of that, hearing that her innocent small child also underwent such disgrace and humility, she had pain that she could not even express and she could not imagine, right? And Srimad Bhagavatam says her pain that she was undergoing, it was like a tender creeper in a forest fire, or like a dried leaf in a forest fire, which was, instantly getting burned up, right? And while she was struggling to digest all of this, her small child Dhruva runs towards her crying, right? And one look at Dhruva and Suniti realizes that she should let go of her pain, her emotions, she should keep it on the side, and she needs to give attention and love and care to her son right now because that is even more important, right? So what Mother Suniti does here is exemplary. And towards the end of this class, in the next 15-20 minutes, 10-15 minutes maybe, we will talk about how what Mother Suniti does in this moment shapes not just Dhruva Maharaj's life, but the future of the entire dynasty of Uttanapad. Right? How the entire dynasty got saved and directed, and good fortune sort of came upon the dynasty by what Mother Suniti does in this situation. right? So first, like we discussed, she puts away her emotions and she picks up her little son. She puts him on her lap and she starts pampering him with love, right? And she starts calming him down. And then she, as a responsible mother, starts counseling Dhruva Maharaj. And she tells three important instructions to Dhruva Maharaj. First thing she tells Dhruva Maharaj is, don't desire harm for anybody. She tells him, Suniti might have insulted you, she might have done injustice to you, but out of envy or hatred or anything, please don't desire, destruction or harm for anybody else. Right. So, and we just discussed what happens if somebody has envy and hatred, right? We lose our opportunity to serve the Lord. So that's the first instruction that uh, Suniti gives to her child, Dhruva. Second instruction she gives is, whatever inconveniences or reversals we face in our life is because of our own karma. Right? So she tells Dhruva Maharaj, if you're feeling offended and insulted, it's your past deeds. It's both of our past deeds. And Suruchi is just an instrument of delivering our karma to us. And interestingly, she stops there. Anybody else, if it was me or anybody else, maybe we would have thought that we would have extended this understanding to the fact that we did something bad, Suruchi is delivering our karma to us. But don't worry, Suruchi has also done something bad. In the future, she will also suffer on her own. You don't have to do anything. That's what we might have said. But Mother, Suniti, she had zero trace of envy or hatred genuinely in her heart. She didn't have any anarthas, right? So she didn't say that. She just said one part where she said, our sufferings are being delivered by, our karma are being delivered by Suruchi. So there's no point in blaming her. And the third instruction she gives is that whatever your stepmother told you is true only, right? Your father, forget about treating me as his wife, does not even treat me as a maid servant, right? And you have taken birth from my womb, you have drunk my breast milk, so you have also become unfortunate and you have lost your ability to sit on that throne. It is true. It is unfortunate, but it is true. But more than this, there is another thing that your stepmother said, which is extremely accurate, extremely correct. And you should follow that instruction of your stepmother right away to fulfill all your desires. Even the desire of sitting on the throne on the lap of your father, even for that desire, you should do the instruction right away. And that instruction is to worship the Supreme Lord Sri Vishnu. Because can desire, he gives shelter to everybody, and he can desire, he can fulfill the desires of everybody, all sorts of desires, right? So she concluded by saying, her counseling by saying that, Dhruva, I am just one mother. I can give you the love and affection of just one mother. But the Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna, to his servants, he gives the love of millions and millions and millions of mothers, infinite mothers, right? So you go and take shelter of the Supreme Lord. She just told that to Dhruva, right? And this is true also, right? Because there's this analogy again in Damodar Leela. There's this analogy of Lord's loving bond with his devotees, right? It is compared to Shadangri. Uh, Shadangri is a bumblebee, right? Now it is mentioned that a bumblebee has a strong stinging, element on its beak. Because of that, that bumblebee, it can even break through wood, strong wood. Also, it can pierce through that, penetrate through that, and it goes away, right? But the same bumblebee, when it becomes the evening time, it seeks shelter, warmth, love from a lotus flower. So it goes and sits on a lotus bud. And in the sunset, when the lotus closes, that bumblebee continues to stay inside the lotus throughout the night. And although it has the power and ability to penetrate, the lotus and come out, it can penetrate wood. Lotus petals are very, very soft, but the bumblebee stays there throughout the night. And when the lotus opens in the morning, that is when it comes out. It does not, although it has the ability to free itself from the bond of lotus, it does not, out of love, right? So this is the same situation with Krishna also. Krishna is supremely independent. He's not bound by anything. But when his devotees bind him out of love, Krishna, out of his own love and sweet will, fails to relieve himself from that bond. Like when Yashoda bound him, he could not relieve himself, right? That is why Bilvamangal Thakur in the Chaurashtakam, he says Chinatsi ghoram yamapashabandam, Bhinatsi bhimam bhavapashabandam, Chinatsi sarvasya samastabandam, Naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. So, Bilvamangal Thakur is saying, Krishna, you cannot be bound by the Yamapasha, right? By the noose of Yamaraj, and you are not bound by material bondage. And you liberate, you cut the material bonds of everybody else as well. But naivatmano bhakta kritam tu bandham. But you are unable to free yourself from the loving bonds of your devotees, right? This is the state of Krishna. And Acharyas even explain Manigriva and Nalakuvera, these two sons of Kubera, they got mercy of Lord Damodar and they got relieved from their curse. But they got relieved from the curse not because of mercy and compassion of Damodar. Acharya say they should be thanking Yashoda Maya because Yashoda Maya managed to bind that Supreme Lord who has never been bound ever. And she managed to bind him. And because for the first time in his entire existence, Supreme Lord got bound, he understood and realized the pain of what being bound feels like. And immediately he felt, oh, if I am feeling like this, these two, sons of Kubera, they also must be feeling like this. Let me go liberate them right away. And then he goes and he liberates them. So Acharya say the real mercy that these two sons of Kubera got was from Yashoda Maya because she bound Krishna, which even greatest yogis could not. Right. So in this way, Mother Suniti, she tells Dhruva Maharaj that you go and you experience the love of the Lord, and she tells him that your grandfather Swayambhu Manu, great grandfather Brahma, all of them have done the same process. They achieved success in their life by worshipping Mahavishnu. So you go and you follow this process, right? Now, here one of a very interesting understanding, again we'll elaborate on this in a bit, but one interesting lesson for us is we can see how somebody who's sincere in their own bhakti, somebody who has devotion, genuine devotion for the Lord in their heart, even in the most difficult situation, most devastating reversals of their life, they have the capacity to keep all of that aside, to keep their suffering aside, and to connect other devotees closer to the Lord, to connect other jivas to the Lord. Right? They have this, amazing capability. Right? And we see that in some of the preachers around us as well. Some of the devotees around us are spiritual masters. Srila Prabhupada, we see this attribute, this quality amongst many Vaishnavas who have risked a lot at their own personal expense just to connect and benefit other devotees out of compassion, right? Which is what Mother Suniti did. Now, Suniti said this, but she didn't expect what was going to happen next. In the next 10 shlokas, we see how Dhruva Maharaj heard this and instantly he ran away. And he didn't run away from the room or from the palace. He ran away from the kingdom into the forest because he knew, he had heard that Lord is in the forest. Sages go to the forest to attain the Lord. So he ran there. And when he was running there, Krishna realized that this small boy, Dhruva, has intense fire of determination to perform bhakti and to please Krishna, right? Could be because of selfish motives, because at this stage, Suniti was a pure devotee, but Dhruva was not yet a pure devotee in this stage. He was not yet transformed. So he still had hatred. Out of the three instructions, the first two he could not accept. First two, where Mother Suniti said that don't have hatred towards others and accept that whatever sufferings we are because of our karma. This Dhruva Maharaj could not digest. But the third one, that you worship Vishnu and all your desires are fulfilled, this he found practical and he followed. But Lord, he sent his devotee Narada Muni to go meet Dhruva Maharaj, right? So that pure devotion can be induced within Dhruva Maharaj, right? Chaitanya Charitamrit, it says, and we discussed this in one of our previous sessions as well, Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula Hoya Sadhu Sangha, Krishna Prema Janma Tenu Punaha Mukhyanga. It is mentioned Krishna Bhakti Janma Mula. The root of devotion for the Lord appearing in our heart is Sadhu Sangha. And not just that, once devotion has appeared, we don't need devotees anymore, right? Krishna Prema Janme Tenho. Even when we attain the stage of Krishna Prema, Punaha Mukhya Anga, even in that stage of perfection, Sadhu Sangha is still a very important aspect of our spiritual existence, right? So Understanding this, the Supreme Lord sends his pure devotee Narada, and Narada Muni cuts path with Dhruva Maharaj. Now, Narada Muni did not know all of these. He was not present in all of these incidents, but he is a Trikalagni, and the Paramatma in his heart, he revealed whatever happened with Dhruva Maharaj, right? So he asked Dhruva Maharaj, "Where are you going?" Dhruva Maharaj said, "I'm going to worship the Supreme Lord." Then Narada Muni tested Dhruva's determination. He said, "You are a small child. Your age is to go play with toys. You should not be affected by honor and dishonor just because somebody does not give you what you wanted. You cannot take such extreme steps. This kind of revengeful attitude is not at all fitting of a small child, right? You just forget and let it be. Go continue playing. And the forest is filled with so many dangerous animals and so many dangers, right? You should not come here. And if you're really mature enough to understand what is honor, dishonor, disrespect, all of these big, big things, then please understand that sufferings and dishonor and all of that comes because of your own past misdeeds, right?" And then Narada Muni continues, "What you are trying to do to please Supreme Lord is not at all easy. It is extremely difficult. The most powerful personalities, who are million times more powerful than you, they have tried to please the Supreme Lord for millions of years, and they have miserably failed, right, repeatedly. So you don't think that what you're going to achieve will happen easily, right? So he says, finally, you go back home and you continue playing, and when you're older, if you still want to attain Supreme Lord, then you come, but for now you go back, right? And then he tells Dhruva Maharaj that when you go back, if you want to remain happy in material life, then if you want to avoid sufferings, you should have good dealings with others in this material world. Then Narada Muni says, to those who are more qualified than us, we should be happy with them. We should not have any inferiority complex. With those people who are less qualified than us, we should be compassionate upon them without any tinge of superiority complex. And with those who are equally qualified with us, we should have a sense of friendship with them without any tinge of envy. So he gives all these instructions to Dhruva Maharaj, and Narada Muni, concludes his philosophical instruction. Dhruva Maharaj patiently hears all of this, and he tells Narada Muni in a very honest manner that, Narada Muni, I appreciate all of your instructions, but I cannot accept or implement any of them at this stage, the stage that I am in right now. Right now, Dhruva Maharaj could have said, "Yes, yes, Narada Muni, okay, fine." Narada Muni would have gone his way. Dhruva Maharaj could have done his thing. But no, Dhruva Maharaj was extremely honest. And he said that this path of peace and understanding and all of that that you're seeing, it might be good for a Brahmana, but as a Kshatriya, I am not able to digest it. Right? My goal is to achieve a kingdom which is even greater than my great grandfather Brahma. Forget about my father or my grandfather. Right? The whole material creation is ruled by Brahma. I want a kingdom even greater than that, so that I can sit on that throne and show off to my family members. Right? And then he tells Narada Muni, to help me achieve this goal, you must have some means, some process. So please guide me. Please reveal that to me. Right? So Narada Muni, hearing this, he did not get offended. I am such a great sage. How come this small 5-year-old boy is telling me I won't accept your instructions? If it was Durvasa Muni or anybody else, they would have taken water from their kamandal and cursed the small boy, right? But Narada Muni didn't do that. He understood the mood, the motivation of Dhruva Maharaj, the determination of Dhruva Maharaj. His motives might not be pure yet, but his determination was extremely strong, right? And Narada Muni was impressed by the one-pointed determination of Dhruva Maharaj to please Narayan at all costs. And Narada Muni had faith in this principle of akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udarabi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purushaparam. Whether somebody has no desires, akama, or sarvakamova, whether their heart is filled with material desires, or mokshakama udarabi, they have the desire of liberation. If they approach the Supreme Lord and they perform tivrena bhakti yogena, then yajeta purushaparam. By performing this bhakti, all their motives get purified and they attain perfection. Right? So Narada Muni had faith, so he wanted to guide Dhruva. So in the next section, Narada Muni teaches Dhruva, gives various instructions of how Dhruva Maharaj was supposed to go to Madhuvan, sit on the banks of Yamuna. He should make a small form of Vishnu with mud, and he should start worshipping this form. Then Narada Muni explains the various beautiful qualities and various attributes of the Lord's form. Then Narada Muni tells him the practice of Ashtanga Yoga while meditating on the Lord's form. Then also Narada Muni gives him a mantra to chant throughout. This is the Dvadashakshara mantra, right? Or the Mukti mantra, which we chant before any Bhagavatam discussion, which is Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So he gave this mantra to Dhruva to chant constantly. And then he asked him to worship the deity, which Dhruva makes with mud. He asked him to worship with tulasi leaf, which is abundantly available in Madhuvan, right? So in the purport here, Prabhupada writes that we should worship the deities according to the time, place, and circumstance. If we are in the palace, if we are in a comfortable situation, we can have deities made of gold, brass, silver, all of that, and we can worship opulent worship to the deities. But even if we don't have any of those things, Dhruva Maharaj, he just made a deity out of mud. He offered Yamuna water to it, and he offered tulasi leaves to it, and he still attained success, right? So it's not what we are offering, but the love and devotion with which we are offering, right? And if we have the means to offer something very opulent and very nice, we should still do it. But just by doing that will not achieve success, because success is guaranteed by our mood, by our love and our determination, right? So Dhruva Maharaj, he receives these instructions and he goes into the forest. Now Narada Muni, he goes to the palace to meet Uttanapad. And Narada Muni inquired Uttanapad, how are you? And interestingly, in this inquiry, Narada Muni asked Uttanapad, how is your dharma, artha, kama going on? He did not even ask about moksha, because somebody who's attached to his kingdom or to his wife and all of that, such a person cannot even think about moksha. So Narada Muni did not even ask him about that. And Uttanapad is not a bad king as such. He's coming in a very honorable dynasty of Swayambhu Manu. And we'll talk about the glories of Uttanapad as well. We'll see how he transforms. But Uttanapad was attached, so Narada Muni asked about about his material well-being. But Uttanapad expressed deep guilt and remorse about what he had done. His heart was bleeding from inside, right? And he tells Narada Muni, I am unable to even take a single breath, and I'm suffering in this pain because of me, my son has left the house. He has gone in the forest. He must be starving there. He's facing so many dangers. He must be attacked by so many animals. And I'm sitting here because of me. My son is suffering. He was in so much pain. He was crying. So Uttanapad was genuinely feeling repentful and very a lot of remorse. So Narada Muni saw this genuinity of Uttanapad, and he consoles Uttanapad by saying, "Don't worry. Any human makes mistakes, but you are genuinely repenting for it, and I assure you that your son is safe, and not just that he's safe, he's going to do something that has never been done in the history of material creation ever. He is going to please the supreme personality of Godhead in a very short span of time and attain perfection. And because of your son, you will get glories for the rest of the creation, right? And this is actually true as well, because uh, Swayambhu Manu had two sons, Priyavrata and Uttanapad. Priyavrata was the elder son, Uttanapad was the younger son. But Maitreya Muni spoke about Uttanapad first because he wanted to speak about Dhruva Maharaj. Because he was so eager to speak about the glories of Lord Dhruva Maharaj, that he spoke about the younger son first, Uttanapad first, right? And Narada Muni assured him that in the future also this will continue. You will be remembered and glorified because of your son. And hearing this, Uttanapad became fully satisfied, and he eagerly started waiting for the return of his son from that time onwards. While this was happening in the palace, in the peaceful forests of Madhuvan, something extraordinary was taking place, right? In the last 12 shlokas of this chapter, we see that Dhruva Maharaj was performing intense tapasya. As directed by his guru, Narada Muni, he went to Madhuvan on the banks of Yamuna. He made a small deity of the form of Narayan, as Narada Muni had described. He took bath in Mother Yamuna. Then he offered tulasi leaves, and then he started his tapasya. And in the first month, he only ate kapita fruits, those small fruits which monkeys eat. He ate only those fruits once in 3 days. Then after a month, in the second month, he ate only dried grass and dried leaves once in 6 days. Third month, he only had water he stopped solid food. He only had water once in 9 days. Fourth month, he consumed air once in 12 days. He inhaled once in 12 days. And by the fifth month, he stopped having all sorts of dependencies. He stopped solid food, he stopped liquid food, he stopped breathing as well. By this fifth month, Dhruva completely controlled his breath, closed all his senses and all the randras, and captured the form of the Lord in his heart, in his mind, completely, right? And he stood on one foot. And Bhagavatam says when he stood on one foot, when he raised his feet and stood on one foot, the entire earth went down because Dhruva had consumed the weight of the entire universe, right? Why? Because entire universe is situated inside the Lord, and the Lord was situated inside Dhruva's heart. So because of that, he had become so heavy that just by his toe, he managed to push down the entire earth, and the earth was unable to bear this burden, right? Uh, we struggle to do the austerities of Bhishma Panchak. We get so scared from 1 or 2 weeks before we start preparing mentally that I should eat nicely so that I can go through Bhishma Panchak. But here we see the determination of this 5-year-old boy, this amazing determination, right? So when this happens, when the earth goes down, all the Devi Devatas, they get perturbed, they get suffocated, and they go to Lord Vishnu. They approach Lord Vishnu and they ask him, what is happening? Mahavishnu consoles them, saying, "Don't worry, my dear devotee Dhruva is performing his tapasya, and I will go give the result of his tapasya to him very soon. I will please him. I will fulfill all his desires and give his blessings to him. So everything will be okay. Don't worry. All of you go back." And the devatas go back, and Mahavishnu comes to the spot. So Dhruva Maharaj, who was meditating, he had his eyes closed, closed all his senses, and he had the form of the Lord in his heart, captured in his heart. But suddenly that form disappeared. And then when Dhruva Maharaj opened his eyes, that same form appeared in front of him, right? And he attained perfection. So in the next shloka, we'll see how the Supreme Lord, he came in Garuda to give darshan to Dhruva Maharaj, and how wonderful dealings he had with Dhruva Maharaj. What did the Lord say? What were the prayers of Dhruva Maharaj? Then how Dhruva Maharaj went back, how he was accepted by his family members, how Dhruva Maharaj got married, and he became the king even before getting married. He ruled so nicely for 36,000 years, right? Then unfortunately his brother Uttama, while hunting, gets killed by a yaksha. So Dhruva Maharaj, out of attachment and love for his brother, he kills all the yakshas. He starts killing them, but then he's consoled by Swayambhu Manu. And then towards the end of his life, Dhruva Maharaj goes to Badrikashram. There he meets the sages, and towards the end of his life, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead. So all of this will be explained in detail in the next 4 chapters, from ninth chapter to the 12th chapter, right? So this was the first chapter that we discussed about the glories of Dhruva Maharaj Tapasya. And now the final point, final takeaway point, right? That what can we learn from all of this, right? This pastime, if we have to take one learning from this, definitely the biggest learning is the determination of Dhruva Maharaj, right? How he was fixed up in bhakti, right? Uh, we are all in this material world, and the fact that we are still in this material world shows that we lack even 1% of determination which Dhruva Maharaj had, right? Because Krishna came 5,000 years ago and he gave the message of Bhagavad Gita to all of us, but we did not take it seriously, right? And that's why we continue to exist in this material world. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago. He gave the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and he gave Krishna Prema abundantly to everybody, freely, but still we did not take it seriously. Srila Prabhupada came just 50 years ago and he gave Krishna consciousness to all of us, the philosophy, the movement, the association of Vaishnavas. He gave everything to us in a spoon, in a golden spoon. But still, if we are not serious right now, if you're not determined in our bhakti right now, if you're not fired up in our bhakti right now, there's nobody else left to come except Kalki. That's the only other personality of the Lord who is going to come. And the mercy of Kalki is going to be very hard for us to digest, right? So if not out of love, at least out of fear, we all should, start endeavoring to become determined, fixed up in our devotion, in our bhakti, right? And while being fixed up in our bhakti is very, very pleasing to Krishna, it gives a lot of pleasure to the Lord, but something that gives even more pleasure to Krishna is when we help others to get fixed up in their bhakti, right? Janma sartaka kari kara para upakar. When we perform sadhana and perfect ourselves and not stop there but help others to perfect their lives, Krishna is extremely pleased. In the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that there is no servant who is more dear to me in the past, present, or future than that person who will give the message that I have given to you, Arjuna. That person who will give this message to others is the most dear to me, and there cannot be anybody more dear to me, right? So, this is the highest pleasure that we can give to Krishna, right? We say, samsiddhir haritoshanam, the greatest, benefit or greatest goal that we can achieve in human form of life, apart from remembering the Lord at the end, is to give pleasure, to act in a way that gives pleasure to the Lord. And the wonderful opportunity that we have is this highest pleasure that we can give to Krishna of connecting others to Krishna. That service, that seva, that opportunity to give pleasure is only available in the material world. In the spiritual world, the seva is not there at all, because everybody is devotees. Whom will we preach to? Whom will we connect to Krishna? They're all already connected eternally, right? So only in this material world we have this wonderful opportunity, right? Uh, and to do this, even not just when things are comfortable, things are convenient for us, but to do it even when things are not convenient, even when we ourselves are undergoing reversals in our life, is very, very difficult, right? But that is one of the hallmark of a Vaishnava. In the end of fifth canto, when Sukadev Goswami explains all the 26 types of hellish planetary systems to Parikshit Maharaj himself is going to give up his body in a couple of days. But after hearing that narration, any of us, we would think, oh my God, how can I protect myself from those hellish planets? But Parikshit Maharaj was so close to giving up his body, not for a single moment he thought, how can I protect myself? He asked Sukadev Goswami, how can the entire mankind, how can they protect themselves from these hellish planets, right? That is the mood of a Vaishnava, right? Even we recently celebrated Govardhan Leela, right? Krishna forgave Indra. One of the reasons was Indra came with the recommendation of Surabhi Mata, Surabhi cow. But another reason why Krishna forgave Indra was Indra unknowingly gave pleasure to Brajavasis. When Rajavasis were under the Govardhan hill and they were all immersed in having uninterrupted darshan of their beloved Krishna for 7 days and 7 nights, they all desired, may the rain outside never stop. And just by continuing to pour rain on Govardhan, Indra satisfied the Vrajavasis unknowingly. And because of this unknowing Sukriti, Krishna had favor towards Indra and he forgave him. Right? So this is the benefit of unknowingly serving others and connecting others to the Lord. Imagine knowingly, if we take some endeavor, some effort to connect another soul to Krishna, how much more favor and mercy we can attain from Krishna, right? And our history is filled with Vaishnava saints, acharyas, who have connected others to the Lord at their own expense, right? Right from Srila Prabhupada, who underwent 2 heart attacks while he was going to America in the Jaladuta cargo ship. But the moment he landed in New York, in Boston and New York, he did not he did not search for cardiologist and he did not go get treatment, right? He forgot about himself. He immediately started preaching to the hippies right away, right? He started seeing whom can I preach to. Even Guru Maharaj right now, Jayapataka Swami, Guru Maharaj, in spite of so many bodily pain and suffering and all of that, he's still doing more than anybody in the prime of their youth can do. If we read all his updates in the JPS app, right? So it's incredible. And even around us, there are many examples that I personally have seen in my Krishna conscious journey. And I'm sure we've all seen examples of exemplary Vaishnavas who continue to preach, continue to have genuine compassion to other jivas in spite of them undergoing severe reversals in their life. Even in those moments also, they are very genuinely determined to have compassion towards others, right? And this is what Mother Suniti performed here. This is the greatest lesson that we can derive from this chapter. Suniti herself, she was going pain, but she transformed the life of not just Dhruva. Dhruva, anyway, by the instructions of Mother Suniti, he attained perfection. But she transformed the lives of Uttanapad, of Suruchi, and of Uttama as well, because they also transformed. Seeing Dhruva attaining the mercy of the Lord, they became extremely favorable towards Dhruva Maharaj. They offered him Abhishekam with milk and water when Dhruva Maharaj returned. and they lost all their envy towards Suniti, towards Dhruva, right? They became very, very favorable because Krishna is all attractive and Krishna was seated in the heart of his devotee Dhruva Maharaj. These people also got attracted to Dhruva, and by that attraction, all their anarthas got washed away, right? So by the simple act of compassion of this one mother, one lady, the entire dynasty got saved, right? So if we can derive inspiration from this, and we can also, in some means or form, to our capacity, for the pleasure of our Guru Maharaj, for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada, no matter what we are going through in our life, if we can manage to somehow keep that aside, not get fully consumed by it, and render service of connecting other jivas to Krishna somehow, either through direct preaching of philosophy or through some of our talents, if we can manage to do that, Krishna will be very, very pleased. And we generally think Kartik Vrata is from the beginning of Kartik to the end of Kartik. But there is another Kartik Vrata, which starts from the end of the Kartik to the beginning of next year's Kartik, where we say, before the next year Kartik, I will finish so and so. I will read Bhagavatam this much. I'll finish this, right? That's another Vrata. And we can all take a Vrata that before the next Kartik, I'll try to connect at least these many souls to Krishna. I'll at least endeavor, right? So if we can do that, that'll be very, very pleasing to the Lord. So with that, I'll stop here. I know it's 7:30. So unless if there are any questions, any corrections, we'll take that. Otherwise, we can stop.